Lineup day off for Adam Eaton against the left-hander. In fact, only one left-handed bat in the lineup for Dave Martinez, and that's his star left fielder Juan Soto. So Josh Harrison, who has great numbers against Steven Matz, gets a start in right field today.
There's a Toyota numbers for Steven Matz this season. It'll be interesting to watch, not the numbers there, but interesting to watch how many right-handers he's able to get that fastball in on this evening.
Trey Turner leads off. He's been struggling. Matz's first pitch is a fastball in for a strike, and we're underway. Mets played 2 games in D.C. last week. Turner didn't have a hit in either game, and he's just 2 for his last 23. And maybe more shockingly, has not stolen a base yet this season.
He has been thrown out 3 times.
So it's a rough start for Turner, who is the engine that drives this Washington offense. And with Turner struggling, not surprisingly, the Nationals are the lowest scoring team in Major League Baseball. They're averaging just 2.9 runs per game this season. And a good changeup by Matz to get even 2-2. The Nats have lost 7 games this year. They've scored a total of 9 runs in those 7 losses. In the air to left center, pretty well hit. Back in the gap goes McNeil, and he makes the running catch. Well, they moved McNeil out there and switched him with J.D. Davis, in part because McNeil has more range in the outfield, and he showed it off there to run down that drive by Turner for the first out of the night.
Got a little bit in on Turner. Look at all that running that McNeil had to do. Is he good range, showing good range into the gap?
He was playing close to the line. They gave him left center, and he made up for it with his speed.
And I think we're going to see this defense more and more. J.D. Davis at third base has just been outstanding this year thus far.
So one McNeil sprint, 1 out, and now Josh Harrison, who hit a home run against Matz in Washington last week. One of 2 long balls Matz allowed in that game. Rosario gets in front of the grounder and throws out Harrison, and Matz has the first 2 outs.
And your Lexus Metzi defense. Ramos back behind the dish tonight after a day off. Andres Gimenez getting a 3rd start at second base. He's played all 3 infield positions, third, short, and second, and he's good in all 3. And in the outfield, Nimmo in center. That's been pretty much the steady right there, those 3 guys.
All 3? There's no other position on the infield?
Oh, well, there's 8, right? No, 9.
You said all 3 infield positions. Isn't there another position?
Okay,
on
well,
the
you know what I mean. That the first base doesn't count.
Oh, really?
Well, for the right-handers. I mean, if you're left-handed, you can't play those positions.
Although it has happened.
It has happened. You're right.
Starlin Castro is 8 for 10 against left-handed pitchers this year. 8 for 10.
Yeah.
That's 800.
Yeah, it is.
Good math, Gary.
Overall hitting .357. Studied long and hard for that run. Castro's 4th in the National League in batting. 30 years old, and he's already passed 1,500 hits for his career. There are those offensive numbers for the Nats. They've only played 11 games, 5 fewer than the Mets. Remember, they had weekend before last off because of COVID issues, not with them, but with other teams. 2-2 to Castro. Speaking of which, the Cardinals, their series with the Pirates has been wiped out, and their Thursday scheduled doubleheader against the Tigers wiped out as well. The earliest the Cardinals will play is Friday. They have only played 5 games this season.
They had all negative tests yesterday. They need another one today.
And a good changeup by Matz to finish off the inning against Starlin Castro for a 1-2-3 opening frame. Mets come to bat against Corbin when we come back. Throwing his changeup for a strikeout of Castro to end the inning.
I mean, a tight circle with that pointer finger and thumb, and then look at it, comes right off the middle finger. Beautiful spin. That was as good a one as Steven's thrown all year. Castro is a good 2-strike hitter.
Geico Mets starting lineup. Ahmed Rosario again will lead off against the left-hander. Brian Dozier will DH for the first time for the Mets, the 6th different DH the Mets have used in their first 17 games. Wilson Ramos back in after sitting yesterday. J.D. Davis up to the 2 hole. And there's Patrick Corbin facing the Mets for the second time in less than a week.
Land Rover knows cars, and they also know pitching stats. As you can see, the ones for Patrick Corbin against the Mets in his career, his ERA, though, 4.48.
Rosario had a rough day at the plate yesterday, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. When Ahmed has led off a game this year, he's gone 0 for 6 in that first at bat. Last year, he led off 38 times, and in his first at bat of the game, hit .378. So go figure. And he hits this one toward the middle. Diving stop by Castro. Gets to his feet and throws out Rosario for the first out. Nicely done by Starlin Castro. One away.
That's a fine play. It's a big hang with him right there, but that's just a fine little play by Castro.
Still moves pretty well for a 29-year-old veteran.
So 1 out and nobody on that J.D. Davis, who just keeps on getting hits every day. 13-game hitting streak, and you see the numbers he's accumulated against the Nationals. He wears them out. Including Corbin, against whom he's 6 for 20 with 3 home runs. J.D. starts the day 8th in the National League in batting, 10th in the league in on base percentage. And it has certainly played to the benefit of Davis. That's hit slowly toward third. Charging is Kieboom. The throw is low. Scooped out beautifully by Cabrera. And as Drubel with a nice scoop for the rookie Kieboom to get the second out.
It's not that easy as Drubel. On the run throw by Kieboom. See the hop here. That's not an easy hop right there. That's the in-between hop. Well done from the bottom up. Couldn't have done it better myself.
Well, you know, as Drubel's played a lot of the infield positions, but he hasn't played that other position that really isn't an infield position. It's only his 5th career start at first base.
Such a little smarty pants tonight.
You started it. Here's Jeff McNeil. Jeff has struggled the last 3 games since coming back from the intercostal, but he slices this one deep to left. Soto going back, and it's over his head, and it hops over the wall for a ground rule double. So that'll get McNeil going. Hitting it well the other way for his 4th double of the year. And the Mets have the first base runner of the night.
That'll make him happy.
First pitch hitting, Keith.
What new? He's been going the other way, and that ball is right down the middle, a ball he could have pulled or gone the other way. And Jeff's been struggling a little bit, had the intercostal injury that missed a couple games, and don't know if he's quite 100%. I know he's not feeling like he's in a groove like J.D. Davis. So what do? You dial it back there and use the whole field. Well done.
Well, he got loose running after that first fly ball by Turner. All set for that first at bat. Here's Alonso looking to get him in with 2 out. And he gets curveball and pops it up. Castro drifting out. And Alonso's retired, and so are the Mets in the first. No score. Pick a new predictive game that offers you the opportunity to pick outcomes and compete for cash prizes. Make your predictions count. No purchase necessary. 21 plus to compete. Restrictions apply. See official rules and enter at MLB.com/QuickPick. Juan Soto leads off a little late on the fastball by Matz as we start the second inning. Soto hit the ground running last week. His first game of the season was against the Mets, and he got hits his first 2 times up.
He's yet to get a base hit off a left-hander. 0 for 5 thus far.
And Matt's looking to work at a very quick pace, and Soto trying to slow him down. Soto, Kendrick, and Cabrera for the Nats in the second.
Well, this is a big game for Matz to pitch here. Get back on track.
Well, especially, and we've said it often in this strange season, there's so much more pressure on Matz because of what is going on around him. We mentioned it in the open. Marcus Stroman today opting out without having thrown a pitch for the Mets. Matz handles the comebacker and throws out Soto 1 away. Losing Syndergaard to Tommy John surgery. Michael Wacha is out for the moment. So the Mets, who started spring training with 6 starters, are now down to only 3 of those 6. David Peterson has done a nice job filling in. But Matt certainly takes another step forward in terms of his importance in this rotation.
Yes, and I think that David Peterson has pitched well enough to be in this rotation. He's not going anywhere. I'm impressed with his work so far.
Here's Howie Kendrick, who's DHing tonight, and the curveball misses badly for ball one. Now the Mets are going to need a starter on Wednesday to take Waka's spot, and there are a plethora of possibilities. The Mets have not committed to any of those yet. We saw Franklin Kilome come up and make a long relief outing for 4 innings, his first outing back from Tommy John surgery, and he was impressive. So you have to think that they're thinking about him. Of course, anytime you have an opening in the rotation, people start talking about Seth Lugo. But I think it's ludicrous at this point to think about moving Lugo out of what has been a slot that he has taken and run with as one of the best relievers in baseball. What do you guys think? That's grounded down to third. Davis gets down to his knees and pops up to throw out Kendrick for the second out. Another fine play by Davis.
You know, Gary, do I have any doubt that Seth Lugo would be a real good starting pitcher? No, no doubt at all. As we see, Davis just continues to shine since being moved to third base, not only with the catching of the baseball, but getting up and the firing of the strike. We know last year he had a little trouble throwing the ball, but there's no doubt he would be great. But he is the most important part of that bullpen by far, and you can't take him out. And if you took him out to try to lengthen him, what would you do? Send him to the alternate training site so it can lengthen him out? You can't do it.
You know, they may have considered it if Diaz had come over here and pitched as he had that terrific year in Seattle. But with Diaz struggling, even though he's pitched better this year, the last 3 outings anyway, you can't take Lugo out of the bullpen.
Now the other guy is Gazelman,
Yeah.
but Gazelman's only made 1 appearance now, coming back from a triceps issue. So the way I look at it is Kilome already showed you a really terrific outing. Start him, have Gazelman to piggyback him, and go from there. That's the way it makes sense to me. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense. You know, that second note there, I mean, it was Rich's last year because you just had the same names you could throw out there, and they haven't had it this year. But Gazelman, it's hard to have a guy coming off a triceps injury and say, hey, we want you to throw 100 pitches.
No, it's not going to happen now.
And Thursday is the game that is the
Wednesday.
And we talked with Luis Rojas, and he pretty much alluded to their leaning toward that being a bullpen game.
There's Dribble Cabrera, 3-1 to him, and the curveball in for a strike. Interesting selection by Matt.
Yeah, he's throwing a 2-1 breaking ball and a 3-1 breaking ball now by Steven, not giving in to the hitters.
Cabrera off to a hot start from this side of the plate. He's 5 for 7 as a right-hand batter, hitting just 194 as a left-hand batter. And he cracks this one deep to left field. McNeil back at the wall, and it's out of here as Dribble Cabrera opens the scoring back in his old haunts with his 2nd home run of the year. And the Nationals take an early 1-0 lead.
Well, Gary, you talked about Castro hitting 800 against left-handers, 8 for 10. Well, now Asdrubal Cabrera is 6 for 8 against left-handers. And his first home run against the lefty, it's a hanging little slider, Ronnie, looks like.
Yeah, you know, I said when we started how he got in on the right-handed hitters would probably ensure his success. That was a cutter, and it just did not get in on the hands. It was middle, and the dance continues.
Cabrera's a nice player. He's a good player.
Yep.
Well, that's 58 home runs Matz has allowed in the last 2 seasons, plus 6 already this year in 16 innings. And now facing the rookie Carter Kieboom, the third baseman.
Bumgarner got
This is with the changeup.
Bumgarner got on that list just from his first 2 starts this year.
And now he's gone on the injured list today. Bumgarner, who did not crack 90 in his start yesterday for Arizona, and there's certainly great concern for him after signing you know, a deal that was probably based more on his track record than on his future. 5-year deal with Arizona.
Well, he was on such a team-friendly contract with his years in San Francisco and got his payday with Arizona. But when you think about it, he's a year younger than DeGrom and Strasburg and has thrown almost 1,000 innings more than Jacob DeGrom.
Speaking of DeGrom, did you think that his biggest competition for a 3rd straight Cy Young this year would be coming from San Diego? Dinelson Lamet.
That's right.
Took another no-hitter into the 7th yesterday for the Padres. Good changeup by Matz to strike out Kieboom. That ends the inning, but not before Asdrubal Cabrera. It's his 32nd Citi Field home run. The former Met taking his old mates deep. 1-0 Nats. Whereas as a Met.
Well, gets a slider here, and you can see the kind of spin. It doesn't want to. It doesn't evolve into that little tight circle, which means it just hangs. And Cabrera just covered it.
Michael Conforto generally has fun facing Patrick Corbin. Last week in Washington, Conforto homered for the 5th time against Corbin. That's more home runs than he has against any pitcher, and the most home runs Corbin's given up to any batter.
Yeah, it was a 2-run home run in Washington, and a ball down and away, and he went the opposite field. And Conforto has had tremendous success so far, hitting .308 against lefties. All 3 of his home runs are against left-handers.
There's 5 home runs against Corbin, coming in just 22 at bats. Conforto hitting 5th in the order. Takes a slider out of the strike zone. It's 3-1. Wilson Ramos on deck, and then Brandon Nimmo for the Mets in the 2nd after Asdrubal Cabrera's home run put the Nats on top.
He throws a fastball. I bet you he comes in. It doesn't go away. Let's see. No, going away.
Corbin's velocity is significantly down from last year. Through his first 2 starts, his average fastball velocity is 90.1. Last year it was 91.9, so he's down almost 2 miles per hour, and his slider velocity down a similar amount. Pulled down to first and handled by Cabrera, who's been busy early. 1 out.
And then Washington National defense on the infield, and all those 4 positions. You see Cabrera at that 4th position at first base, who's been really spectacular so far.
And he's right-handed.
Yes. And in the outfield, you have young Juan Soto, who's just a terrific player. He's back in the lineup at left field.
Here's Ramos, who's celebrating his 33rd birthday today. Last year on his birthday, he celebrated by hitting a home run against Patrick Corbin. And now he's facing Corbin a year later on his birthday again. And the former Nationals catcher takes outside for ball 1. It's been a struggle for Ramos. Went 0 for 6 in the series against Miami. His batting average under 200 for the year. Hold foul. I thought Luis Rojas had an interesting explanation for what's troubling Ramos at the plate. He said he's a guy who dives, but he's diving a little too much right now.
I didn't quite get that. He's been chasing pitches, which means he's diving. I don't think he's a dive hitter.
Drives this one toward the gap in right center, and diving is Harrison. He can't get it. Ramos will head for second as Robles recovers, and Ramos slides in safely with an opposite field 2-base hit. So a birthday double for Wilson Ramos.
Well, that's what Wilson does naturally. He uses right center field, and he can drive it out there. And this is a very good sign that he may be turning the corner here. He's hitting over 300 against left-handers. The right-handers are giving him a world of trouble. And this is where his strength is. Hitting the ball up at the plate. I think what Louis was saying was out in front. That's why he's been chasing bad pitches. You get too quick when you slump, and that makes you really vulnerable to the bad breaking ball in the dirt.
So now Nimmo moved down to 7 in the order against the left-hander tonight. And Brandon takes a fastball for a strike.
Here's the side swing here. This is a good view right here. Look at the contact right up at the plate. Let the ball get deep on that ball away and play it to that opposite field. That's how you drive it the other way.
Good sinker by Corbin, and it's 0-2.
We're going to give you more, folks. We're going to look at the point of contact here. The ball is down the middle. He's hitting it slightly in front. And the ball down the middle is a ball you can either pull or you can go the other way. When you're not really feeling good at the plate, it's a good idea to go to the opposite gap. And then when you get your groove, then you get that pitch, you pull it and really do some damage.
0-2 to Nimmo, who's struggled against lefties so far this year. Reason he's hitting 7th today. Brandon hitting just 136 against left-handers.
Yeah, 3 for 22 to be exact.
Mets yesterday were 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. 0 for 1 so far tonight. It's an area that's plagued them this season. And the slider misses. Harrison, I thought this was a good gamble because you know Ramos isn't going to get a triple if you miss it.
You got it, Gary. Good call. And he was backed up by a center fielder, Robles, too. Really, Harrison is all those years with the Pirates played primarily at second base.
Definitely more an infielder than an outfielder. But he's become a utility guy later in his career. 2-2 to Nimmo with Brian Dozier, another former National, on deck. And Nimmo gets one in the air to right center. Robles should have plenty of room. And Ramos going back to tag, but he's not going anywhere. And that's the second out. So 2 away now, Dozier. Brian Dozier has not done a lot of DHing in his career. Only 2 games. And they were both in 2016, and in those 2 games as a DH, he went 3 for 8 with 2 home runs. So a small sample size. But, you know, it's interesting because we've been looking at a lot of DH numbers this year for guys who haven't done it a lot. And for most of them, their DH numbers are significantly down from their overall numbers. I think most hitters probably would prefer not to DH, with some small exceptions. Dozier gets one in the air to center field, and this one's playable for Robles. And that retires the side. Second straight inning. Corbin's gotten around a double. 1-0 Nats after 2. The official chalk celebrate game day with M. That's an angry M. I don't like the
smug. I think it's more smug, Gary.
You think?
Yeah.
Well, maybe kind of like rakish. See, that's a happy M. The yellow M.
Don't trust anyone that happy.
You're such a cynic. Yan Gomes leads off the third against Steven Matz, who gave up an Asdrubal Cabrera home run in the second. Gomes looking for his first hit in the season. And he fouls off a 96-mile-an-hour fastball. Victor Robles hits 9th in the order, then Trey Turner for the Nationals, who start the day 4-7. They've lost 3 in a row, and they've got 1 hanging in abeyance. That was their game yesterday against the Orioles, which they were trailing. That's taken the other way, and Gomes has his first base hit of the season. A leadoff single in the third. Nats were down 5-2 in the 6th. Rain came down. They tried to unroll the tarp. It stuck. And because it was a mechanical failure, instead of the game being rained out at that point and the Nats losing, it was suspended. They'll finish it on Friday. This, of course, was last year. They started out horribly and had a remarkable run to a World Series title, winning 4 road games in the World Series. First team ever to do that. This, in fact, is their first road game since the World Series. The first 11 games the Nationals have played this year have all been in their home ballpark. Now, 2 of those they batted first.
Against the Blue Jays?
Yeah.
Okay.
But this is the first time they've been actually on the road this season. Victor Robles It's a bad swing of the changeup, and it's 1-1. And you know, the road is producing problems for some teams. You know about the Cardinals and the fact that they will not have played for 2 weeks. The Cleveland Indians are getting very serious about their players breaking protocols. They sent Zach Plesac home yesterday because he had gone out to dinner after his start over the weekend. And now news comes down that their other terrific starter, Mike Clevenger, has also been quarantined because he broke protocols and he's been scratched from his start Tuesday night. I mean, if we're going to finish this season, guys, you just can't be doing those things. I mean, watching that near brawl between the A's and the Astros yesterday, especially after the discipline that was handed out when the Dodgers and the Astros had their little dust up, you have to think there are going to be some heavy suspensions coming down, particularly for Astros coach Alex Cintron. That's lined and just past the glove, foul ball. I mean, Ramon Laureano got hit 3 times in that series, and yes, it was an off-speed pitch that hit him here, and clearly he was unhappy and a little demonstrative. Now, he's a guy who used to play in the Astros farm system, and Cintron and he know each other well, and Cintron stepped toward him and called him out, which is just, yeah, that's a coach doing that. That's just wrong.
Yeah.
And then he hid behind a few guys, and Dustin Garneau was Johnny on the spot. He tackled Laureano, and Laureano today actually thanked Garneau for tackling him to make this a little bit less of a brawl than it might have otherwise been. There's a good changeup to strike out Robles, and there's the 3rd strikeout for Matz.
3 strikeouts, all on changeups.
So I know that, you know, human behavior is very hard to legislate, even self-legislate. You know, you're used to doing certain things, you're used to going out with friends, you're used to reacting certain ways to things that happen on the field. But if we're going to complete a schedule this year, if there's going to be a full season of baseball and a postseason, those things just can't happen. There's Trey Turner, and he can't catch up with the fastball.
You have to think to yourself before you do anything. I mean, I do it at home. I'm sure you guys do it too. You have to quarantine as completely as you can.
I thought Marcus Stroman's comments were interesting today. And by the way, Stroman, unlike Yoenis Cespedes, came to the ballpark, talked to the media, talked to his bosses, made sure everybody knew exactly what was going on before he opted out. And he said, look, this is a family thing. And frankly, watching what happened with the Marlins and the Cardinals has to give you pause. How could it not? He's got some relatives who are immunocompromised, and he said after a lot of discussion with his family, he decided it was really the only thing that he could do. And those are some of the guys who have opted out along the way. The one who opted out and came back was Nick Markakis with the Braves. And they all have that option, I guess, of changing their minds, but Markakis is the only one who has. Turner flying out his first time up, and takes a changeup low and away.
Really enjoyed Davis's ready position, Keith. He gets down there.
Turner flies one deep to left. Back goes McNeil at the wall, takes a look, and it's out of here. Trey Turner with his 2nd home run of the year, a 2-run shot. The Nats' 2nd home run of the night off Steven Matz, and it's 3-0 Washington.
And the long ball hurting Matz again.
Turner has been ice cold, 2 for his last 24 going into that at bat, but it was only a matter of time before he broke out.
So got a fastball, Ron.
You know, Keith, I was just wondering that Turner last year broke his finger, his right pointer finger. Played the rest of the year when he came back with that finger off the bat. I wonder if he developed some bad habits that have cost him here early. Certainly didn't cost him there.
19 home runs last year. That's his 2nd this season. I mean, he really is their engine.
Yes,
I agree. If he doesn't produce. It's hard, especially with Rendon gone and Zimmerman opting out. They just don't have the depth of bats in their lineup. Harrison bangs that one off Ramos, and that hurt.
Well, it's a heater, and it just did not get it in enough. You see Ramos bringing that glove back over the middle, and Matz knows he made a mistake.
So that's 7 home runs now that Steven has allowed in 16 2/3 innings. Josh Harrison grounded out to short his first time, and he grounds this one to the left side. Charging is Davis, and the throw on target. 2 out.
Boy, Davis is flashing leather, and this, where he was, a negative defensively at third last year, and they moved him out to left field because they had to find a spot for him because of his bat. Now he's a plus at third base.
Yeah, maybe like Pete, he wants to be a complete player, and he's worked at it with Gary DiSarcina.
Well, most of his problems last year came on throws. He's got a great arm, but Gary felt as though JD's feet weren't always in the right position to make throws, so they worked long and hard on footwork, not having him air out every throw, and it's working for him right now.
I don't know if the layperson can tell, but the ball players can tell when a infielder or outfielder wants the ball hit to them. And you could say sometimes last year JD didn't always want it hit at him. When you look at him now, his body language, how he goes after the baseball, he wants it. Can't wait for the ball to be hit to him.
And you can see he's getting lower this year as well,
Yeah.
which is another thing that Gary DiSarcina worked with him on. 1-2 to Castro, who struck out his first time up. And curveball misses. He held the swing, and it's 2-2. It's young umpire Jansen Visconti making the call at first base.
Let's see if Steven changes it up a little. Doubles up on that curveball.
2-2. And he gets a swing and miss on a changeup, but the ball gets away from Ramos, and Castro will wind up on first base. Well, that's his 4th strikeout, all on changeups. But with the ball going to the backstop, Castro able to reach and keep the inning alive.
That's got to be a wild pitch here, right?
But it's on Ramos. He's got to get in front of that and block it. You know you're going to get a changeup in the dirt.
But the fact that he's on the knee, Ronnie, which we've seen him do, I mean, it's tougher to move laterally.
You're right.
When you're kind of anchored there with that knee down, and the changeup's supposed to be away. It was on the other side of the plate inside.
So it is a strikeout and a wild pitch, and now Soto cranks one out to center. Nimmo back. He takes a look, and that's up into the black. A monstrous home run off the bat of Juan Soto. So the strikeout wild pitch keeps the inning alive, and Soto cashes it in, and it's 5-0 Washington.
Gary, I thought you said these guys can't hit.
They have not hit.
Isn't that? It's a funny thing, you got a team that plays Baltimore at home and loses 3 games, and they're behind in the 4th, struggling to score runs. You hate to face that team. You know they're going to break out sooner or later.
We've never seen a home run there. I haven't.
That's a long home run. Past the out.
He's just got very quick hands. Wow, this is a stunner right here. Lightning strikes.
2nd home run of the year for Soto in just 16 at bats, and that's bearing the brunt of a 2nd straight rough go in less than a week against Washington. Well, Soto still only 21 years old. Only one player ever hit more home runs through their age 20 season, and that was the wonderkind of the New York Giants, Mel Ott. So this is troubling for Matz, no question about it. On a day when the Mets found out Marcus Stroman will not pitch this year, a day after they found out Michael Wacha needed to miss at least a start on the injured list, Matz being asked to play a bigger, more prominent role in the rotation, and he's turned in a second straight rough start. One-two coming to Kendrick, and he just got a piece of the changeup. Those are the career numbers for Steven. Had good health carry him through each of the last 2 years. That was a major milestone for him, and was hoping that this would be a big year for him. It has not started out so well. First start was real good. Kendrick lifts one in the air to shallow right, and in comes Conforto to make the catch. That retires the side, but 2-run homers by Turner and Soto make it 5-0 Nats in the third. Juan Soto etched himself as one of the superstars in this game. Andres Gimenez at age 21, just getting started, but the start has been very good for the first 2.5 weeks of his big league career. 3 hits yesterday, 3 runs scored, a stolen base to boot. I was shocked to read this morning that he was the first number 8 hitter for the Mets ever with 3 hits, 3 runs, and a stolen base in a game. No Met 8 or 9 hitter had ever done that before. Making his 8th start tonight, and he chases a slider from Corbin. He's got company there, 1-2. Well, Corbin now staked to a 5-0 lead. He had an early lead against the Mets in Washington and didn't have a great outing. Gave up 3 runs and 8 hits over 5 2/3.
Trying to see if the fish were still biting there.
You know, that slider, which is so hard to lay off, doesn't have the bite that it did last year, because they are laying off some of them.
Throws that slider 38% of the time. And another one to get Gimenez for the first out. First strikeout of the night for Corbin. Juan Soto hitting the Nats' 3rd home run in the first 3 innings against Steven Matz, and the celebration ensued.
Goodness gracious. I wouldn't want to exert that kind of energy.
He didn't ride on anybody's back the way Trey Turner did. Now, correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Last year with the Nats, wasn't it Dozier whose back Turner rode after a home run?
Well, yeah, I mean, Dozier was definitely one of the guys who
hit hard by Rosario, but foul. I don't know whose back he was on this year.
You know, I was just thinking with Turner's home run and riding the back of a player, maybe the baseball rituals of celebrating and going out for a beer with friends and won't allow social distancing the way it should be.
Oh, Corbin catches it, falls, makes the play.
Nice recovery.
This is a guy who can do a 360 jam. He usually looks more elegant fielding his position.
I mean, this could have looked really ugly. He somehow pulled it together there at the end. Now, okay, that's bad. Now, just get on one knee, make it look good. Yeah.
It looks much better than Jared Hughes' play the other day.
I hope he had fun with that, Jared.
He did.
He did.
He
Good.
Totally did.
Good guy then.
He was the guy who tweeted out the picture of him with his foot in the air with you can see the logo on his shoe. He said, New Balance can't be very happy with me.
Could happen to anyone.
J.D. Davis grounded out his first time up. And the slow curveball from Corbin. A ball and a strike. Well, J.D. is the longest hitting streak since Wilson Ramos's 26 gamer last year for the Mets. That's Coors Light beating the pressure. This one Corbin will let go, and Castro's right there to play it, and that retires the side. So Corbin with an easy 1-2-3 inning. After 3, Nats 5, Mets nothing. Fiserv and SNY salute tonight's veteran of the game, along with those serving Nats. He's getting strafed across the tundra. 3 home runs in the first 3 innings. Cabrera, Turner, and Soto have all gone deep for Washington. 8 home runs allowed now in 17 1/3 innings for Mats this year. And it's got him the short end of a 5-0 score. That's a nice.
Looks like the Northern Lights, Scare.
It's a cosmic phenomenon
Across the tundra.
I don't think we're far enough north quite for the Aurora Borealis, but here's Cabrera. So as Drupal on a team that had been struggling, he's been hot with the bat. He's now hit in 7 straight games. 34 years old now, and willing to play whatever role you put him in. Playing first base tonight, just the 5th time he started at that position in his career. It'll be Cabrera, then Carter Kieboom, and Yan Gomes for the Nats in the 4th. Cabrera now 6 for 8 as a right-hand batter this year. It was his first home run from that side. And that curveball bounces low and in. 1-2. Nats gave up 2 home runs in his 3 innings in Washington last week to Kendrick and Harrison. So 5 different Nats have taken him deep in 6 innings in 2 starts. That's nearly half the home runs the Nationals have hit this year. With their 3 tonight, they've hit 13, and Mats has given up 6 of them, or 5 of them, excuse me. I oversold that.
Yeah, but you corrected yourself quickly.
Changeup's been his best pitch tonight.
It seems that way, yes.
The Mets tonight are playing their 900th regular season game at Citi Field. They need a win tonight to get to 500 in this ballpark. They are 449 and 450 since moving here in 2009. Long turn at bat for Cabrera. Part of the reason they're under 500 is the way the Nats have played in this ballpark. Washington is 64 and 42 at Citi Field. Most wins easily for any visiting team in this park.
I wonder what the you would probably know this, Gare. What was the final win-loss record for the Mets at Shea?
Well below 500.
Well, we tried in the 80s to get it up.
Yeah. That's outside, and Cabrera runs the count full.
It was hard to overcome those 1960s.
You know, when you lose 110 games multiple times, although the first 2 were at the Polo Grounds, so those didn't count.
Right.
8th pitch of the at bat coming to Cabrera when he's ready. And as Drupal yanks one over the bag, and that's a fair ball. That'll go down the line and all the way into the corner. And as Drupal, Cabrera has his 2nd extra base hit of the night, and he's now 7 for 9 as a right-hand batter. A home run and now a leadoff double.
Well, he let both balls, the double and the home run, were down and in. I mean, what? Excuse me. The home run was up. This one was down and in. Good balance right there. No lunging. Nice swing.
So that's 5 hits now against Mats. 4 of the 5 have gone for extra bases. And here's Carter Kieboom, who struck out his first time up. Let's check in with Steve Gelb. Steve?
Well, Gary, that Cabrera double just out of the reach of J.D. Davis, but as we've noted multiple times on the broadcast already, he's been eye-opening how much better Davis's defense has been at third base. And you mentioned specifically the change in footwork. One of the main things that Gary DiSarcina and J.D. Davis worked on this offseason was his pre-pitch setup. If you remember, especially early last season, Davis had that really unique setup where he'd get down on one knee, almost in a lunging position, so that when he moved forward, he could be on the balls of his feet. They scrapped that because he wasn't on time, wasn't in an athletic position. Now he sets up like a tennis player awaiting a serve. They actually watched tennis players as they awaited serves just a little hop up because they've got to return 120 miles per hour, moving to their left, moving to their right, very similar to what you have to do at the hot corner.
Well, I hope he watched Agassi, because that'll be the way to get it the best.
Well, the way he did it last year was the way Chris Bryant sets up at third base, and it works for Bryant, but I've never seen anybody else do that.
You know, Bryant's a different athlete. We're talking about a guy that's 6'5" plus, so he has to have a little different approach. Sturdier and blockier built is J.D. Davis, so I like the position he's in now, which means lateral movement to both his right and his left should be equal.
It's a multi-sport athletic position. It's how you play defense in basketball. You mentioned returning serve from tennis.
Linebacker.
Yep.
Gary DiSarcina also mentioned actually Chris Bryant as the reason why they let J.D. Davis do that at the beginning of last season. They wanted to see if it worked for him, but as they got to know the player a little bit more, they felt like they had to move away from it. And DiSarcina actually flew out to California in January specifically to work with Davis on this.
Kieboom takes a changeup for a call third strike, and that's 5 strikeouts for Matt, all 5 coming on the changeup. And that's the first out of the 4th.
Was it inside? Too close to take. That's the borderline pitch. Umpire gave it to the pitcher.
So Kieboom strikes out for the second time. Paul Sewald goes to work in the Mets bullpen, with Mats now up to 76 pitches through 3 1/3. Here's Yan Gomes, who picked up his first base hit of the season, a single to right, and scored ahead of Turner's home run in the 3rd. And he drives one to left, but right at McNeil, and that's the second out. So another hard hit ball for Gomes, but McNeil positioned perfectly, and there are 2 away. You know, there have been a lot of rules changes in baseball this year. The extra inning rule, the 3-batter minimum, the 7-inning games in doubleheaders. Maybe one that they have to institute from, you know, lower levels of baseball is the mercy rule. Tonight the Phillies are up 13-1 on the Braves after 6.
Yeah, call off the jam.
That game should be over.
Okay.
Right? If we're really serious about playing pandemic rules. There's Victor Robles, who struck out his first time up. Another good changeup by Mats. That has been his go-to tonight. Phillies have scored 13 runs, 5 home runs, and Bryce Harper hit a home run off Sean Newcomb before Newcomb ever got an out. A 3-run shot in the first, and it's been off to the races ever since after the Braves swept the Phillies in a doubleheader yesterday.
Didi with a grand slam.
So the Phillies under 500, as are the Mets, as are the Nats. The Mets right now at 7-9 in the new playoff system, another new rule this year, are tied for the final playoff spot, tied with the Cincinnati Reds at 7-9 for the second wild card.
Jeez.
Fly ball shallow center, a long run in for Nimmo. He'll get there, and that retires the side. Robles flies out, and Mats gets around the leadoff double by Cabrera. Middle of the 4th, 5-0 Nats. Andres Gimenez to expect from the rookie infielder going forward on the latest episode of Shea Anything. Subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. Does that mean you're not in this week's edition, Keith?
Oh, I'm in.
I mean, your picture's right in the middle.
Well, I don't know why. And another first pitch swing by McNeil, and going the other way too. It looks like Corbin is pitching him away.
McNeil hit a long double to left field his first time up. That's doubled the first and second against Corbin, but left a runner stranded each time. McNeil, Alonso, and Conforto for the Mets in the fourth. And McNeil hits this one along the left field line. This one's playable for Soto. 1 out.
Well, Gary,
1 out now, Pete Alonso, and I understand, Keith, you had a chance to chat with Pete today.
yes, I did, and I was driving in, and because we're not allowed on the field, folks, and we're not allowed in the clubhouse, we have no interaction with the players. So, PR department, Harold, set up a phone call on my drive in with Pete today. And I talked to Pete for around 15 minutes about his struggles and how he feels, and it was very interesting. I asked him the first thing, because I struggled early in my career and would lose confidence and get shook. So my first question to him was, did he ever have his confidence shaken when he was really, really struggling? And he said no. I always felt that I was dangerous up there every time I took a swing. It was a timing issue for me, and again, this is something so different than my generation, not growing up with computers and videotape, where Pete said I just do my work in the video and I try to get it to manifest itself on the field. I asked him if he ever got discouraged and pressed, and he said, which was interesting to me, was he said, no, I had to slow myself down because I was so excited to be on the field again. And I was so excited to be playing baseball that I was just too euphoric, and I wasn't staying within myself, which I found very interesting, Gary.
That is fascinating.
That's the kind of guy Pete is, as he goes down swinging there. But he basically said he was working for the bigger part of the field, which to me is one of the couple of things that made sense to me. What's the bigger part of the field is gap to gap. I asked him, I said, I've noticed you've been taking a lot of pitches of late, but taking them like you're going to hit. I used to always take, you never waste a take. If I'm going to go up there and take a pitch, I'm not just going to sit there like this. I'm going to hit it and watch the ball. And he said yes, because he wanted to get the ball deeper. So he's very disciplined doing that. And it was just a very interesting call, because there's so many things that are different today. There's so much emphasis on the video and the analytics and studying. These guys they grew up in a different world than myself and you, Gary, and Ron. But he never had his confidence shook, and I believed him. You know, a lot of guys can put up a front. I really believed it. I believed him. And the funny thing was, I didn't want to take up too much of his time. It was around 15 minutes. And I thanked Pete for his time. And Pete says, well, I have a question for you. And I said, what? And he goes, did you really not know what PBJ meant?
That's funny.
So
It's around, Keith.
So they're listening to our broadcast.
That's funny.
I had to laugh at that. So, but Pete was just very wonderful. I thank Pete and for giving the time. And hopefully tomorrow, Harold, who's our head of our PR department, who's been so wonderful for us, I'm going to have a conversation on the way in to work tomorrow with Conforto.
Nice.
There's Pete.
So the player today, the process sets him free. In our day, the results set us free. You
Yes.
have to have those positive results.
And Conforto goes down on the slider, so back-to-back strikeouts for Corbin with his signature pitch. He's rolling. He's retired 8 in a row. Patrick.
He does have a slider working. See the grip, the rotation, the RPMs are just outstanding. And the thing he's done this year that I didn't really notice last year is he's changing speeds on that pitch. And that is what got Conforto there with the break also.
Trey Turner leads off in the fifth and bangs one into center field for his second hit of the night. So after Turner hit a 2-run homer in the third inning, jumps on the first pitch he sees in the fifth and singles to center field.
Boy, I tell you what, the good hitters When they break out hot, and the Mets have a big 4-game set here against the Nats. Don't want this kid getting hot at the top of the order. A big leg kick, but hitting right up at the plate. No lunging, no body movement forward. Anchored off that back foot.
He was 2 for 23 coming in. He's 2 for 3 tonight. Josh Harrison, the batter, and takes a fastball low. Harrison's been up twice, grounded out both times. We mentioned Turner, no stolen bases this year, which is very strange for the former National League stolen base champ. At 35 last year, was caught only 5 times. This year he's 0 for 3. I mean, I don't know of any physical issue that would be slowing Turner down. Last year he missed time because of a broken finger. But that should have nothing to do with his ability to steal bases.
Well, always say in the game, keep your eye on the ball. Look at Turner. I mean, that is around illustrates it beautifully right there. Look at that focus. Both right there, head on the ball. You can't, you know, I told Snuffleupagus a long time ago, I mean, you got to keep your eyes open when you take a swing. Got to keep your eye on the ball.
And what did Snuffy say?
Oh, thanks for the tip.
Snuffy's very kind. That's lined into center field, and Harrison's got a base hit. So Harrison is in the lineup because of his prowess against Matz. Now 6 for 13 against Steven. And the Nats have something working here in the 5th.
Fights off this ball inside. It's a changeup, I believe, Ron, and he got it up and over the middle.
You know, there's nothing worse than being on the mound and kind of lost, and that's where Steven is right now. And you know, it's easy to criticize a start when you've given up home runs and you're down 5 runs. The one thing I will say, and the only thing I will say, is that the hitters for the Nationals are having very comfortable at bats.
Castro grounds one to third. Davis gets the out at second. Jimenez the turn, not in time. Castro beats the wrap at first. So they take out the middle runner, Harrison, on a 5-4 fielder's choice.
And the reason I say that, here's the play by JD. It was closer at first than we think it was. Let's see if he's up in the air.
Safe.
No, he's safe. The reason I said about comfortable at bats, when you look at the tape, that's what I would do if I were Steven. Why are these guys so comfortable at the box? Even when they don't get a hit, it's hellacious cuts they're taking. Now, personally, that would make me very angry. And it should make Steven angry also. I'm sure it is.
Well, you know, you think of Steven Matz, especially against right-hand batters in the past, as a guy who always pitched inside. We're not seeing that as much. There goes one by Soto.
There you go. That's the pitch, right up and in fastball.
Well, this next fastball should be a little more up and in.
Can't let these good hitters extend their arms. Their toughest pitch to hit is up and in. Although Soto is awful quick inside.
Soto hit a 463-foot home run straight away into the black. Hit it beyond the apple in center field. One of the longer home runs we've seen to that part of the ballpark. Fastball in for a strike, 1-2.
I know that they have talked, there's where it landed above the apple, talked to Steven about taking some of the emotion out of his pitching, but that's a fine line. Emotion, it can help you through the tough spots.
And he just got a piece of that. There's that home run. It was a monstrous shot.
Yeah, it's a hanging breaking ball right there. Well, that was a Titanic home run. I know Soto's very competitive at the plate, and he likes to glare at the pitchers, and it's all. If I was pitching, I wouldn't like it. I would have to, have him dust off his uniform a little bit.
It's all part of the competition.
Well, that little stride he takes toward the pitcher when he takes a pitch, you can understand how that would anger a few. He hits this one out to right center, back in the gap, long run for Nimmo. He won't get there. This one hops over the wall for a ground rule double. Turner will come in to score. Castro will stop at third. Soto's got his third RBI of the night and his second extra base hit, and it's 6-0 Washington.
A lot of fly balls just not getting caught in the outfield this year with the Mets. Seen a little too much. A lot of hang time here. This is a changeup, which is a pitch I don't like. That changeup, Ron?
Lefty on lefty, right?
Yeah, I don't like it with 2 strikes. When you got to hit it, it's a tough strikeout that bears down. I'm not going to give him something off speed.
Well, a rough outing comes to an end for Matz, his second straight clunker against the Nationals in less than a week. Soto having a lot to do with that. Sewald in, Matz out. 6-0 in the 5th. Will be runners on base. Exiting after 91 pitches over 4 1/3. Paul Sewald is in to face Howie Kendrick. The infield comes in, and Kendrick goes after a first pitch slider. 0-1. Kendrick's 0 for 2 tonight. Grounded out and flied out. Sewald last came on in relief behind Matz in Washington last week and pitched well for an inning and 2/3. Comes in here with 2 in scoring position. And Kendrick slices one foul. That'll go out of play. And it's 0-2.
See the numbers for Sewald. You got to be very careful here. Doubling up inside off the plate would be a nice pitch. With 2 strikes, Kendrick is going to put the ball in play, or usually he does.
And Kendrick lines one past the drawn in infield and into left for a base hit. Everybody moves up a base. Castro in to score. Soto goes to third. 7-0 Washington, and they're just pouring it on.
Well, I said it earlier. You got a team that's coming in that's struggling to score runs. A little over 2 runs per game, and they're just, they've lost Rendon, and they're never going to replace Rendon. He's just an elite player, but they still got plenty of firepower in the lineup, and you just hate to see them come out of a series where they've been swept and by a team that they should beat, and at home, and they're overdue.
Here's the other thing from a Washington perspective. You're struggling. You're coming into a 4-game series in New York, and you look at the scheduled starters and you see you're playing 4 games and you don't have to face DeGrom. That's going to make you perk up. There's Cabrera, who's already had a big night with a home run and a double.
Think of the odds of that. I mean, it's a 5-man rotation, so it's just got to.
And there's no Syndergaard, and now there's no Stroman, and there's no Waka, and all of a sudden you're thinking, well, maybe we can get well there.
Make me go to the store and quick store and get a couple lotto tickets.
Rick Porcello will get the ball tomorrow. Max Scherzer, who tweaked his hamstring against the Mets last week, apparently is good to go and not miss a start. And he'll face his former Tiger teammate tomorrow. Mets will have to find a starter Wednesday to replace Waka against Anibal Sanchez, and David Peterson gets the day game Thursday against Austin Voth. Sewald behind 2-0 on Cabrera, who has homered and doubled tonight. And he cracks this one to left center, slicing away from Nimmo, and it beats him. In to score comes Soto. Kendrick to third. He's being waved around. And it's a 2-run double for Asdrubal Cabrera, his third extra base hit, his second and third runs batted in, and now it's 9-0 Washington, and the doors have flown off this one.
Well, Nimmo took a wrong track. He didn't think this ball was hit as deep, and it gets over his head. And Brandon has a little bit of trouble at the ball hit directly at him in center field. He kind of cut across and then realized it was hit deeper, and that ball was a rocket too.
So Sewald providing no respite. Book is now closed on Steven Matz, and it's not a pretty read. 4 1/3 innings, 8 runs, 8 hits, no walks, 5 strikeouts, a wild pitch, and 3 home runs. His ERA after 4 starts is now 8.20. Carter Kieboom's been up twice, struck out both times against Mats. And Sewald misses inside with a fastball, and it's 2-0. And it's the worst part about being a starting pitcher, I would imagine, Ronnie. You have back-to-back efforts like this, and you got to wait 5 whole days to make it better.
These games, what happens is when you're on the bench like Steven is now, when you're seeing your baseball start flash before your eyes, can't believe how quickly it happens to get you out of the game.
Three and 1 to Kieboom, and he slashes one the other way for a base hit. And the hits just keep on coming. Cabrera will stop at third. So Sewald has come in and given up 3 straight hits, and there's still only 1 out in the inning.
Just, I don't know. Cabrera didn't really hustle to third base. Could have scored on the botch. I mean, you got to think of your teammate. Get an RBI for your teammate, no matter what the score is. This is a soft liner. You got to be busting trying to score for your teammate.
Jeremy Hefner heads to the mound to talk to Sewald. There's nobody up in the Mets bullpen. Sewald has to wear this. 6 hits in the inning for Washington. They've scored 4 times to bust this game open. Watch SNY Mets games on any device. Just visit SNY.TV or download the NBC Sports app today for live streaming coverage of every SNY Mets game. Yan Gomes, the 8th man up in the inning. He's singled to right and lined out to left, 1 for 2. First and third and 1 out, 4 runs home in the inning. And Gomes takes at the knees for a strike. Now that it appears less likely that the Mets are going to get to 500 at Citi Field, I have to do a mea culpa, guys.
Yes.
That's lined to short and just over the glove of Rosario, and Gomes has another hit. Cabrera trots in to score. 5 straight hits for the Nationals, 5 runs home in the inning, and it's 10-0 Washington. So Gomes, who began the night without a hit for the season, now has a pair.
Well, when it rains, it pours. You get on a roll.
So 7 hits in the inning, 5 runs home, still only 1 out, and now the 9th man up in the inning is Victor Robles, who has struck out and flied out.
Ow.
And that hit him, and that'll load up the bases. And it just keeps getting worse. So Sewald has now faced 5 batters. He gave up 4 straight hits, and now he plunks Robles. Got him right near the elbow.
And you got the red hot Turner coming up with the bases loaded. He seems to have broken out of his slump.
So the trainer's going to come out and have a look at Robles while they talk. So here's the deal. I assumed that from 1964 to 2008, the 45 years that the Mets played at Shea Stadium, that they would have had a losing record at home, and I was completely off base. They were 146 games over 500 at Shea Stadium. 1,859 wins, 1,713 losses, and 5 ties.
I would like the big guy over there next to you there, Garrett, to by decade the 1-loss record.
Well, the thing about, you want to crow about the 80s, but 80, 81, 82, 83, there were a lot of losses accumulated in those years.
Yeah, I was on that 83 team.
I was too for half a year.
Here's Trey Turner with the bases loaded. He started the inning with a single to center. And he takes a strike from Sewall.
I don't want to crow, Gare.
Yes, you do.
I think the 70s were probably a very good year. Well, they had the back end of the 70s were awful.
Right, from 77 on.
Yeah, ever since the Seaver trade.
Right. Every decade, if you think about it, for the Mets had its ups and its downs, right? The 60s were dreadful until 69 when they won it all. The 70s were very good early on, got up to the World Series in 73. Pretty decent teams up until through 76. Turner lines one to right. That's in for a base hit. And the merry-go-round continues. Keyboom is in. Everybody else moves up one base. Second hit of the inning and the third of the night for Turner. It's now a 6-run fifth inning. 11-0 Washington. And where does this all stop?
Where is this all but one base at a time stuff?
It's interesting that at the beginning of the inning, Gary, you brought up the mercy rule.
I mean, this ball's hit in the gap. Conforto's got to go to his right. You can't score a second on this?
Keith, I think there's a belief in the game today. When you get a big lead, they go base to base. The third base coach will not.
Harrison flies one out to Conforto. Gomes will tag at third, and he'll be in to score the 7th run of the inning on the sacrifice fly by Harrison. And now it's 12-0.
Whew. This is one inning to forget.
It's one way of thinking about it. Yep. Castro will be the 12th man up in the inning. He had produced the only out before the sac fly. 7 straight Nats had reached base between Castro hitting to its fielder's choice and Harrison hitting that sac fly. But Castro's 0 for 3 tonight, and he is the only Nat who hasn't reached base, although he scored 2 runs. Reached on a strikeout wild pitch, reached on a fielder's choice, scored both times. Sewall pumps on a strike, 1-1. Anyways, thinking about decades, right? So the 80s were terrible early, great late. The 90s were pretty awful early and then got really good the last couple of years. Yeah. The 2000s were exceptional in the middle of the decade, 2006 being the best. The 2010s were, again, middle of the decade. 2015 was the highlight. But there's been no complete decade in Mets history where you'd say, oh, they were terrible the whole decade or they were great the whole decade. And we're just starting this one. And I don't know how to characterize this year because it's not like any other year that's ever happened, but I can only hope there will never be another year in baseball or in any other walk of life like 2020.
Crowd noise doesn't have the same appeal in a 12-0 game.
Maybe they should tone it down a little.
Exactly.
You know, the good part about that, right, is that amongst the choices that the crowd noise engineer has, booing is not one of the choices.
That's good.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing for the guys out there playing. 2-2 coming. And Castro fouls it back.
Keith, you got any more of that Alonso phone call we can talk about?
Oh, well, we can pull a couple rabbits out of our hat tonight, I think.
No, this past Saturday was National Baseball Card Day. We haven't gone with that yet.
I think we should talk about Major League Baseball going to Buffalo tomorrow. The 3rd New York team.
That's right.
Salen Field. the home of the Toronto Blue Jays.
And it will be the Marlins going there.
The last time a Major League Baseball game was played in Buffalo, it was during the days of the Federal League. The Buffalo Blues played in the Federal League most recently in 1915. And now 105 years later, Buffalo will be the home for Major League Baseball again. They've done a lot of upgrades on that field to make it Major League ready. 3-2 coming to Castro. And he slams one out to left. In comes McNeil, and he slides and dives and hangs onto the ball. And this inning is mercifully brought to an end. An F7 to end a 7-run inning.
Bottom of the fifth inning, those 12-0, and I know it seems like a lifetime ago at this point, but in the beginning of that last half inning, Ron, you were talking about Patrick Corbin's slider and how you noticed that he's throwing it at different speeds. I was speaking with J.D. Davis earlier about what makes that slider so difficult to face, and he mentioned the change of speeds. He said he throws two separate sliders, one before there's two strikes and one when there are two strikes. Before two strikes, it's that slower, almost get me over, show me slider. Sometimes he'll try and induce weak contact or get an early strike. But once he gets to two strikes, that's where it gets really tight, a little more velocity. And what J.D. Davis said is that he really at that point tries to set that slider up. So for a righty, he may try and front hip that two-seamer and then come right back, tunneling that slider, try and throw it down and in, back foot of a righty. He said it makes it really, really difficult because he works really well those two pitches off of each other. As a right-handed hitter, what you're trying to do is look for the fastball up and middle to middle in.
Okay, I like that philosophy, that line of attack.
2-2 to Wilson Ramos with Nimmo on deck. Dozier to follow. Corbin back to the mound after a long time in the dugout. His team sent 12 men to the plate, scored 7 runs, took about, I don't know, half hour. You ever get tempted to warm up between innings when that happens, Ron?
Not warm up, but you walk around and just keep your legs working. But it didn't work here. Walk.
Yeah, sure enough. His first walk of the night. Well, the whiff rate, the swing and miss rate on the slider. We mentioned Dinelson Lamet earlier and his slider, and Corbin right up among the leaders since the start of last year and getting swings and misses on the slider. And it really doesn't matter righties or lefties.
Did you see Dylan Bundy with the one-hit shutout the other day?
Well, speaking of pitchers in the American League who used to be in different places, do you see over the weekend who got saves in back-to-back games for the Texas Rangers? Our old friend Rafael Montero. First 2 saves of his major league career. And last night in the Sunday night game, speaking of former Mets, 38-year-old Oliver Perez got the save for Cleveland.
Ollie
looks like he's about 57. With the gray hair and the mustache.
I won't tell him you said that.
That's okay. Ollie and I are tight. Nimmo flying to center his first time, and he hits a comeback or a chance for 2. Turner makes the turn for the 1-6-3 double play. And that erases the leadoff walk.
Well, as a pitcher, the toughest thing sometimes is see how that mound is rounded. You're throwing sometimes downhill, uphill, side hill. So you have to be careful, make sure your throw's accurate.
He's well aware of that after having fallen on his rump earlier in the game.
He's a good athlete, though.
Yes, he is. He was the kid who was a basketball player growing up, Corbin, and so unschooled in baseball that when he went for his high school baseball tryouts, he went wearing jeans.
That was like when I was Let me see. 8 years old. My first year in Little League, it was the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And you played with the softball tops, and you played in your jeans. Then you went to the major leagues, and then you got
Full
to get
uniform?
the full uniform.
Okay.
Dozier lines one just beyond Turner, and Dozier's got a base hit. So the former National with just his second hit as a Met, and the Mets' third hit of the night against Corbin.
Well, no matter what the score is, make sure you get the base hits. You don't give up at bats. And another thing, too, is, Ron, in games like this where the pitcher's out there with a big lead, more inclined to throw a fastball because he's got the 12-run lead.
Yes.
You know, and you fall behind or first pitch fastball. Never give those at bats away.
Or a first pitch slider.
Yes.
It being Corbin. He got Jimenez on a slider his first time up. Needless to say, they're not holding against Dozier with the Mets down by 12 runs. And they're going to feed this young man a steady diet of sliders till he shows he can hit them. Well, those are the last 3 years. The 2018 season won him the big contract with the Nats, 6 years, $140 million, and he did not disappoint. Pitched often in the postseason, never more important than the 3 scoreless innings he threw in Game 7 of the out of the bullpen in Game 7 of the World Series. So he was the winning pitcher in Game 7. But you know, we were talking about his past as a basketball aspirant, and you can understand that. He grew up in Clay, New York, near Syracuse, where the baseball season doesn't last long, and everybody's a big fan of the Syracuse Orange Men.
That's right.
Playing indoors. And Jimenez goes down on the slider for the second time. 4 strikeouts for Corbin, and the Mets are done in the bottom of the 5th. 12-0 Nats. Sixth inning, Juan Soto's already had a big night with a 2-run homer and a run-scoring double. He leads off against Paul Sewald, who is going to wear another inning. After coming on in relief of Steven Matz in the 5th, Sewald faced 8 batters and retired only the last 2. Matz got charged with the first 8 runs, Sewald with the last 4. Soto, Kendrick, and Cabrera due up for the Nats in the 6th. I need your guys' opinion on something.
Okay.
Because I saw something happen in a Major League Baseball game yesterday that I don't think has ever happened before. It was a game between Texas and the Angels as Soto drills one into right for his 3rd hit of the day. This kid is just, what a great hitter. So he's got the home run, the double, and the single.
Wow. So impressive.
And the Nats have their 14th hit of the night.
Tried to come inside. He's just so quick inside. Very widespread in his stance. He doesn't take a big stride, so to speak. It's just that he's so spread out.
So a leadoff base runner in the 6th. And here's Kendrick, who's 1 for 3. He fouls one back. So Nick Solak for the Rangers hit a fly ball to right field. And I'm sure you saw the highlight. Joe Adell, the young prospect for the Angels, got back there, got his glove on the ball. It clanked off his glove and went over the fence. Now, it's not the first time in Major League history that there's been an outfielder assisted home run. It's happened, you know, it happens a couple of times a season. And every prior time it's ever happened, it's been ruled a home run, right? Ball goes over the fence. However it gets there, it's ruled a home run. The official scorer, though, in that game, after initially ruling it a home run, decided 2 innings later to switch his call and call it a 4-base error. What do we think about
Well, I've never seen a 4-base error with you, Gary. I've never seen that before. I saw the play, and it was kind of a wow, another ball up and in. It was kind of a fly ball that should have been an easy play, but Adell got lost and it drifted on him. This one right at the head of Kendrick, but he got out of the way. And it was it was before the warning track,
Right.
and it hit his glove and he kind of flipped it 10 or 12 feet over the fence. So I'm good with the call.
Now, he didn't crash into the wall?
Nope.
No.
Okay, so to me, if someone crashes into the wall, it's a home run because the wall caused the.
Yeah.
But if it's in front of the wall and it flips out of his glove, was he on a dead run or?
No.
He was kind of he was camped.
He was moving.
Obviously, I didn't see the play.
He was camped, but he was drifting
Right.
a little bit, and he reached out his glove at the last minute to his left. He's a right-hander, and it hit off his glove and like a highlight Peloton flipped it over the fence.
I mean, people wanted to compare it to the Jose Canseco play,
No.
but Jose, the ball hit him in the head
Yeah.
and went over the fence. That was the Carlos Martinez home run many years ago.
So basically, the ball was misplayed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Then it's an error.
I've always thought that if it's a routine play, and the official scorer described it thusly.
Yeah.
He said if the ball had the same thing had happened, ball hit his glove, bounced out, and stayed in the field of play, of course it would have been an error.
Yes.
Right? However many bases the hitter got on the play, so it should be an error if it goes over the fence too. The only thing about it is it's never been scored that way before. I mean, there have been other circumstances where a fairly routine play like that has not been made, ball goes over the fence, and it's always been called a home run. And there are a lot of things like that in baseball that are, they're called certain ways because they've always been called that way, like a guy loses the ball in the sun, or ball falls between two fielders who stare at each other. Those are always called hits. Now, should they be? That's a matter of some discussion. The question is, do you do it a different way because you feel like it?
Well, did he explain why his initial call was a home run?
I think it was assumed. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Okay.
I think it was assumed by everybody it was going to be a home run because it always has been a home run. 3-0 to Cabrera, who's already got 2 doubles and a home run, and he takes a pitch. Good thing in a 12-0 game. And that's ball 4.
Oh.
And now the bases are loaded. So Sewald putting himself back in immediate jeopardy, and I think we're going to see a little mercy rule here, and Sewald's going to be taken out. Jason Shreve will be coming on for him. 12-0 Nats. We'll be right back. See, that's why you can't have the mercy rule, because it was 12-0, 13-0. Now it's 13-8. They could come back.
Right.
Jason Shreve on to pitch for the Mets.
Let that be a lesson to you, Garrett.
Yeah.
You've seen too many games in your life.
I was just trying to get us home early. Sorry. Usually you're in favor of that game.
I just saw the replay of the botched ball out in right field, Gary.
Yeah.
And that's an error.
I agree.
He misplayed it.
Carter Kieboom pops one up a mile high. Infield fly rule invoked. The batter is out, and Rosario able to squeeze it for the first out of the inning. Jason Shreve has been awfully good in his initial outings with the Mets.
Yes, he has. He's had a nice combination of fastball and split finger. That's a split finger there. Another one. But you know what he's done with his fastball? He's used it and gotten ahead of the hitters. And when he's gotten ahead, he's put them away. That split finger is like a real great changeup by Shreve.
And he says it's all about his fastball.
Yeah.
Better his fastball is, the better his splitter plays. Here's Yan Gomes, who came into the night hitless for the season. He's gone 2 for 3, driven in a run and scored 2. Bats here with the bases loaded and 1 out in the 6th. So Paul Sewald faced 11 batters and retired 2 of them. 2/3 of an inning plus 3 batters in this inning. He allowed 6 hits, 2 walks, and a hit by pitch. He's been charged with 4 runs so far and responsible for 3 more.
Every pitcher that pitches in this game has the same look when they leave the game.
In that dugout.
Yeah, right.
Corbin hasn't broken a sweat. Soto at third, Kendrick at second, Cabrera at first with one out. Fastballs from Shreve is away, and now it's 3-0. Victor Robles, the number 9 hitter, on deck. The Nats came into the night averaging 2.92 runs per game. Worst in baseball. They put up 12 runs in the first 5 1/3 innings tonight. Go figure. And Gomes takes a strike, 3-1. I mean, you can't swing 3-0 when it's 12-0.
No, when you look for a bench and you get someone hurt. Maybe not in today's game, but certainly back in our day, you do that, that's someone's going to get plunked.
It's a final in Philly. The Phillies held on to beat the Braves 13-8. 8 home runs in all in that game. And that's ball 4, and that'll force in a run. So the third walk of the inning. As Shreve walks Gomes to force Soto across the plate to make it 13-0.
Gomes says obrigado for his second RBI.
I'm sorry, what?
What did you say?
I said thank you in Portuguese.
Oh, because he's from Brazil.
Oh,
very good. See, sometimes, Ronnie, you operate on a plane that is just so far above our
I'm
cap.
trying to amuse myself, boys.
I'll tell you what, you've come over a long way for French literature major at Yale.
See, I was trying to remember that yesterday because I mentioned that Ryan Lavarnway, who played for the Marlins yesterday, was a philosophy major at Yale, and I couldn't remember your major, Ronnie.
Lavarnway was he got a base hit yesterday's game, right?
Yeah, those Yale guys can occasionally hit.
I remember when he was with the Red Sox, he was catching Craig Breslow, 2 Yaleys.
That's a lot of IQ right there. Grounded slowly. Tough play for Davis against the speed of Robles, and he doesn't get him, and that brings in another run. An infield hit for Robles plates Kendrick to make it 14-0. And where does it all end?
Oh, no end in sight.
He can run.
Oh, yes, he can. And that has an RBI in it, too. Yeah, he's scooting.
So up to the top of the batting order, and Trey Turner, who batted twice in the 5th inning and had 2 hits in that inning. He also had a 2-run homer back in the 3rd. He's 3 for 4 on the night with 3 RBIs and batting with the bases full. I don't know about you guys, but the middle innings on my scorecard have become an absolute mess.
Oh, mine are pristine.
Pristine.
Pristine? 12 batters in 1 inning, and you might have 12 in the next inning.
Hey,
how do you stay pristine?
I'm proud of my scorecard.
Oh, you're amazing.
You're looking at the replay of a 4-base error. What do you mean?
I mean, Ronnie's dropping Portuguese on me. You're like the handwriting king.
That's right.
And Shreve strikes out Turner with the splitter, and that's the 2nd out of the inning. There's that signature split from Chasen Shreve.
Boy, even you just hate to leave men on base right there. Those are ribeyes steaks sitting there. Infield back. You're Trey Turner. It's hard to double up. Odds are easy RBI. You get a base hit, you get 2.
Let me ask you a question, Keith, from a personal standpoint, because you talk about this a lot in lopsided games as Harrison fouls one off, about making every at bat count, accumulating statistics. But in a year where the statistics aren't going to look the same anyway, right? You're not going to drive in 100 runs. You're not going to hit 30 home runs. Do you worry about that stuff as much, do you think?
I don't think you ever worry about it. It's just you obviously this season is just so unique. You still want to have the big day, Gare. You just you're thinking that the most important game is the game of the day still, even though it's only a 60-game schedule.
But if it's 14-0,
oh, be greedy. No, be greedy.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Have a big day. Pick up the paper in the morning, and there it is. You know, Art Fern, 4 for 5, 6 RBI.
I didn't. You're like the Gordon Gekko of baseball.
I was just going there. Rosario boots it, but recovers in time to get the force, and the inning is brought to an end. On that Gordon Gekko theme, it's 14-0 Nationals as we play in the 6th. The Nats will rest some players now with a huge lead. Wilmer Difo comes in to play shortstop. Josh Harrison moves from right field to left field. And Michael Taylor comes in to play right. So Soto and Turner will get the rest of the day off. Patrick Corbin moves into the 6th with a 14-run lead to face the top of the Mets batting order. Rosario, Davis, and McNeil. Ahmed tonight is 0 for 2. Grounded out twice. Corbin's allowed just 3 hits over the first 5 innings. And Rosario hits a sharp ground ball. Difo just into the game gets an early chance. 1 out.
Ball will find you. Well, the signature pitch that we've talked about with Patrick Corbin, of course, is that slider. Steve talked about him changing speeds, but he's got a beautiful arm slot and angle for that pitch. Great spin. And if you look at his arm as an extension of that pitch, see how he wraps it behind him. So it's pretty hard to bring that out and hit the same spot, arm slot every time, but Corbin does it. But if you see his arm angle, that's really how he throws it. He lets it go at around 11 o'clock on a clock, and it breaks down to 5.
J.D. Davis lofts one foul. So when you talk about changing speeds on a breaking pitch, Ronnie, if it's the same pitch, how do you change speeds?
Tightness of grip, Gary. So the tighter you hold it, the slower it'll go, and the more out, and you got some air in between your hands and the grip, your palm and the grip out on your fingers. That's the one you can really snap hard.
So in some ways, is it the same as the theory of how you throw a changeup versus a fastball?
Same exact way. You want the grip to be able to change speeds on the ball, because you don't want to slow your arm down to throw it softer, right? So you just grip it a little tighter, maybe break it a little more, because you have to factor in, if you're going to throw a slider slower, it's going to break more, so your aim on the pitch has to be different than when you throw the real hard one. That's the key.
So do you use a piece of the catcher's equipment as a target at that point?
Well, let's say you're throwing to a left-handed hitter, Corbin. His big slider, he would probably throw right at the left-hander's front right shoulder, and the little one he would throw probably right at his belt buckle.
Behind on Davis, 3-1, and JD takes ball 4, and the Mets have a 1-out base runner. Second walk of the night for Corbin. Well, Patrick Corbin spent 7 years as a Diamondback after getting originally drafted by the Angels, traded for Dan Herron, and has the 4th most strikeouts in Diamondbacks history. Has a pitcher ever been as dominant and disappeared as quickly as Brandon Webb?
Oh boy, he was good.
That great bowling ball sinker he threw.
Just, injuries cost him.
I think someone that throws a hard sinker and a good one, I think it does a lot of damage to that elbow. It's just hard to throw not just a lazy sinker, that hard sinker with velocity. It's a lot of torque on the elbow.
Trying to think about guys who did that for a long time. Kevin Brown comes to mind.
Well, you got Roger McDowell had a hard sinker.
Right, but he didn't throw that many innings.
Right, exactly. But still, we're talking about guys with hard sinkers, and Roger was very durable.
Kevin Brown made up for it, Gary, because he was a physical specimen.
Right.
It just was, as big and strong as any pitcher who ever pitched.
he was an irascible sort.
Yeah.
McNeil has a double in 2 trips tonight. And Jeff with a tapper. He might beat this out. Corbin can't pick it up cleanly, and McNeil's got an infield hit.
Boy, he's living right. He's got 2 hits tonight. He's living right.
Corbin didn't react right off the bat, and he needed to field this with his bare hand, not with the glove. Hard to play for a left-hander going the third base line, of course.
So the first time tonight the Mets have had 2 men aboard at the same time. And now Pete Alonso's popped up and struck out 0 for 2. Corbin working with 1 out in the 6th. He went 5 2/3 against the Mets last Tuesday, but it took him 102 pitches to get there. Here he's at 5 1/3, only threw 72 pitches.
It's probably be his last inning, though, with this big lead.
Get up to the minute baseball chatter as our insiders share their opinions on the latest Mets and Yankees news. Baseball Night in New York, presented by Tri-State Cadillac Dealers, weeknights at 6 p.m. only on SNY.
Well, plenty to talk about tonight.
Well, there might be, because, you know, if the Mets come back and win this game, it would set a record.
Okay.
No team has ever come from 14 runs down to win a Major League Baseball game in the history of the sport.
You better get your out of here started then.
Well,
rev up that out of here.
there might take a few out of here.
That's what I mean.
Well, you can just bunch some hits.
Okay.
It's 13 or 14 singles. I mean, the Nats had 8 hits in an inning, right? I mean,
That's right.
It always comes to mind when a team gets a big lead and you think, oh, the other team can't come back. Well, they got those runs, right? What was was it a Sunday night game between Cleveland and Seattle? A 12-run deficit overcome.
Yeah.
Was it Cleveland came back?
It was
and beat
Cleveland came back.
Seattle? Yeah. And that's the record. On the corner to Alonso, and it's 2-1. But, you know, just because something hasn't been done doesn't mean it can never be done.
Well, that's what's great about baseball.
It's Max Scherzer, who is expected to pitch tomorrow night, came out after 1 inning in his last start against the Mets because of a hamstring issue. Limped off the mound, but he has been pronounced good to go.
What is the pitcher who pitches tomorrow for the Nationals thinking but will never say?
Save some of those runs for me.
Exactly. You got it, Keith.
Save some of those runs for me.
I think in Max's case, he just wants to be able to get through 5 innings. And, you know, you talk about Corbin coming out early in this game. They may need to save some of their bullpen. Although you've got a 14-man pitching staff, but they need to save some arms just in case Scherzer can't go deep tomorrow. He fouls back, and it's 3-2.
Pete Rent chased out of the strike zone there.
It was August 5th, 2001. Seattle had a 14-2 lead over the Indians, and Cleveland came back to win in 11 innings, 15-14.
Wow.
That's the greatest comeback in Major League history. Davis at second, McNeil at first with 1 out. And Alonso chops one. Another chance for Corbin. This one he handles. He throws to second and throws it into center field.
What's he doing?
McNeil didn't know where the ball was. Davis comes in to score the Mets' first run. He's got to go to first with that ball.
Oh, my goodness.
But instead, Corbin airmails one into center, and the Mets get their first run of the night to make it 14-1.
Oh, boy. Big lead. Just get the easy out.
And Castro wasn't even expecting that throw, but it didn't matter anyway.
Yeah, he knew he'd messed up.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fielder's choice error on the pitcher, bringing in Davis with the run. McNeil had no idea where the ball was, so he stayed at second base. And now Michael Conforto comes up with 2 men on. So a walk, a check swing infield hit, and a pitcher's error.
They gave a hit to that?
No.
Yeah.
No, McNeil had it.
Oh, that's right. I was going to say.
And that was an error.
All right. Jeez. I'm dozing off here.
Well, you got to keep that pristine over there.
Would that be ruled a fielder's choice, Garrett, or just an E1?
Yes, fielder's choice E1.
On the throw, right? Okay, that's what I thought.
Oh, it's time for the Spectrum high-speed pitch. Whose pitches are we going to be measuring? Corbin, of course, but who gets measured on the other side? It's Chasen Shreve. It's probably the first time Chasen Shreve has ever participated, and he's a winner in the Spectrum high-speed pitch. Congratulations, Chasen. You are now Captain Shreve. Ooh, pulled hard at the hole, and that goes through for a base hit for Conforto, and the comeback is on. McNeil heading home. He will score without a throw. Conforto with an RBI single. It's now 14-2. So Conforto has now reached base safely in 17 straight games to start the season. His 9th RBI. And Corbin may be unnerved a little bit by his own defense. We'll get a visit from his pitching coach, Paul Manhart.
Well, Conforto hits him hard. It doesn't matter if it's a close game or a 14-2 game. And pulls the slider in the hole past the Struble.
So Wilson Ramos coming up. Meanwhile, we mentioned that the Phillies beat the Braves tonight 13-8. Sean Newcomb gave up 8 runs in an inning and a third, including a couple of home runs. Earlier this season, after a bad start, the Braves sent Mike Foltynewicz out. Well, they just sent Sean Newcomb to their alternate site.
Well,
so they are not messing around. And remember, Mike Soroka's out for the year. They are really searching for starting pitching. As Wilson Ramos has doubled and walked tonight, and he hits a changeup foul.
Nice play.
Tony DeFrancesco. Tony D, at least the part that we can see of him. 2 runs home in the inning. Alonso at second, Conforto at first with 1 out. And Ramos swings over the slider, and it's 0-2. SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Action has begun in the Washington bullpen. Corbin up to 83 pitches on the night. And Ramos chops one, and another chance for Corbin. What's he going to do this time?
He was going to go to third.
He was thinking about third base, but he knew he had time to adjust with Ramos running, and he finally, the third time a charm, makes a play. And that's the second out.
My goodness.
Hey, he thought about it. 1-1-1.
Should be in the dugout right now.
Wander Suero is up in the bullpen for the Nats. So Brandon Nimmo bats with 2 in scoring position. Brandon has flied to center and hit a comebacker into a double play. Alonso at third, Conforto at second, and Nimmo swings over a slider. 0-1. Brandon lays off that one. It's a ball and a strike. .24 pitches in this inning for Corbin, who began the inning with a 14-0 lead, but has sabotaged himself with his fielding. And that's grounded to second. Comes up for Castro, handles it in the breadbasket, and throws out Nimmo to end the inning. Mets cash a pair. Now they only trail by a dozen. We go to the 2 Washington. There were better tidings yesterday. It wasn't easy for Jacob deGrom on a Sunday afternoon, dealing with a hot spot on his middle finger, but he was good enough.
You know, it's interesting watching the tape of that game later. He just really never had anything controlled all game long. It just seemed like he was searching the entire time, but did what he usually does, and with runners on base came up big. But he's ready to go longer than 5, I'm sure.
Almost got through it without allowing a run, but then Jesus Aguilar took him deep in the 5th inning. That jacked up his ERA to 2.45 through his first 4 starts. But the Mets are 3-1 in his starts, which is a nice development. Jason Shreve beginning his 2nd inning of relief, and Starlin Castro takes a strike. Mets have made some changes. Ali Sanchez is in to make his major league debut, 23-year-old from Venezuela. Billy Hamilton comes in to play center. Brandon Nimmo shifts over to right, so Ramos and Conforto are out. Castro is 0 for 4 tonight, and he grounds one to short. Rosario's got it. So Castro, amidst all this Washington offense, has come up empty. He's 0 for 5. 1 out on the 7th. So the Mets bullpen over the last week had been much improved. The last week, 22 innings, 2 earned runs, a 0.82 ERA. This week has not started out quite as well. Paul Sewald, 2/3 of an inning, 6 runs, 6 hits. Here's Soto, needs a triple for the side. Oh, it's not Soto.
No.
They took him out.
Yep.
Denied him a cycle. Michael Taylor batting for the first time.
It would have been a story if Soto would have come up right-handed, though.
You know, he probably would have hit a triple. It's a G-Man Choi.
That's right.
Who decided all of a sudden in the midst of his major league career to become a switch hitter and hit a home run right-handed.
Only in Tampa could that happen. Yeah, go ahead, hit righty.
What? How do you mean that exactly?
No, I mean that they're just, you know, they think outside the box, and he had been taking BP and proven to his manager Kevin Cash that he could do it. But the first time he went up right-handed, he struck out. But the next time a home run.
Well, you can't get a hit every time. It's a game of failure. Taylor hits one well out to right field, chasing Nimmo back at the wall. He can't make the play, and Taylor heads to second base, and he pulls in with an opposite field double. The 16th Washington hit of the night.
Good effort by Nimmo here, and fearless, not afraid of the wall, just didn't get there.
So Taylor joins the party. And now Howie Kendrick, who's DHing tonight. He's 1 for 3 in a walk. He's driven on a run. He's scored 2. Little dribbler. Off the mound comes Shreve. Calmly throws out Kendrick. That's how it's done. 2 out.
He didn't throw to third.
No, or to second. Let's check in with the studio. Jonas Schwartz has a game break. Jonas, it's all yours. Rays have gotten hot, took the series from the Yankees over the weekend. Michael Perez with a walk-off hit yesterday, and they are poised to go over 500 if they can win at Fenway tonight. Here's Asdrubal Cabrera, 2 doubles and a home run, throwing a walk. He's driven in 3, scored 2 tonight. Yankees sitting on top, but they have struggled the last few days. Orioles and Rays both at 500. The Blue Jays set to make their Buffalo debut tomorrow night. So they've played their first 13 games away from home. The Nationals before tonight had played their first 11 games at home. And the Cardinals are thinking we'd just like to play a game somewhere.
The Cardinals are feeling like the Marlins felt around a week ago.
They've now gone longer than the Marlins have without a game. Marlins went 8 days. For the Cardinals, it's going to be 2 full weeks at least before they might play on Friday against the White Sox. I just don't know how Major League Baseball is going to figure out what to do. They rescheduled all of the games that had been missed up until last week with doubleheaders and the like, but it's going to be hard for the Cardinals to play a full 60 games no matter how you slice it. And there goes the bat as Cabrera needs a little more pine tar, and Chip Hale will have to do the retrieval. Is he allowed to touch the bat?
Good point.
Cabrera spraying some stickum on his hands. He used to work for Lester Hayes back in the day.
Lester Hayes. Fred Bolitnikoff.
Cliff Branch. Michael Haynes.
What was the Dave Casper? Was it Dave
Tight
Casper?
end, yeah.
Yeah, he was big Notre Dame tight end.
With the forward fumble. Yeah. There's the 2-2.
Oh,
He reaches for it and lifts it out to left. Hit pretty well. Back goes McNeil at the wall, and it's out of here. A one-handed home run from Asdrubal Cabrera, his second home run of the night. A 2-run shot. He's got a 5 RBI game, and the Nationals just pouring it on. It's now 16-2. How did he hit that ball to the ballpark?
That was reminiscent of Todd Frazier's home run last year. With let go with one hand, and Todd put it over the fence.
Well, he threw the bat at the ball at the previous pitch. He almost threw the bat at the ball again.
It's very similar to the World Series too, when Kurt Gibson hit the home run, the game-winning home run off of Dennis Eckersley on the Oakland A's.
A huge night for Cabrera coming back to Citi Field, where he now has hit 33 home runs. That's 7th on the all-time Citi Field list. And this one with only one hand.
Wow.
See what I'm saying, Garrett? Cabrera will pick up the paper tomorrow. It won't be Art Fern. It'll be 4 for 4, 5 RBIs, 2 taters.
Well, he'll lead the AP story, right? Asdrubal Cabrera homered twice and drove in 5 as the Nationals bombarded the Mets.
Pum-
Blah, blah, blah.
pummeled.
Pummeled. Exfoliated.
My favorite was always Warren Spahn went 9 innings and scattered 13 hits on his way to a 4-2 win over the Giants.
You don't get the scatter anymore because you have to go deep into the game in order to scatter, right?
Yes.
Nope, there's more riding. Is that his manager?
Are you kidding?
No. Come on.
Come on, Skip.
Can't be doing that. Social distancing, young man.
I'm just in charge of me and Keith up here. Keith and I are in charge of each other. 6 feet at all times, right, Keith?
At least.
You're a model for the rest of us.
At least.
Well. As Shreve puts that inning to bed with a changeup, striking out Carter Kieboom. But Cabrera's second home run of the night gives the Nats an even 16. After 6 innings, the Nats bullpen can hold the lead. Wander Suero first man in.
Corbin gave up a couple of runs in his 6 innings of work. He looked good, and Wander Suero here to try to clean up.
This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the New York Mets and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the New York Mets. Not sure who's going to be disseminating this one. Brian Dozier leads off in the home 7th. He has one of the Mets' 5 hits tonight, a single to left his last time up, and Suero gets the cutter in for a strike, 0-1. Dozier, Jimenez, and Rosario up for the Mets in the 7th.
Let's see how many sliders Suero throws here. The big lead, 14-run lead. He loves his slider.
Well, it's really all he throws. He doesn't really throw a fastball. He calls it a cutter, and it's kind of like Kenley Jansen of the Dodgers. That's just his natural fastball. Henry Mejia used to pitch for the Mets. And Dozier bounces one foul, and it's 2-2. Patrick Corbin, 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 earned, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, 87 pitches. In line for his second win of the year, and they would both be against the Mets. Dozier lays off, and it's 3-2. StatCast presented by Verizon Fios, the 100% fiber optic network. We'll shift on against Dozier, who's DHing tonight. And that's inside, and it's called a strike. Okay, so Dozier's out on strikes. Looked pretty tight, didn't it?
Oh, it's a strike.
Guess not. He acted like it was a lot closer than it was.
It's like that backup slider fooled him.
So 1 out. Now Andres Jimenez, who's been up twice, struck out both times against Corbin. So the 16 runs the Nationals have scored tonight, that matches the most runs the Mets have ever given up in this ballpark. Jimenez drives one down the left field line into the screen, foul. September 20th of 2012, the Phillies scored 16 runs at Citi Field against the Mets. And the 16 runs tonight matches that. The most the Mets have ever given up in any home game is 17.
Oh.
Twice. Castro hurries in, and the low throw handled by Cabrera, 2 out. Both the times the Mets gave up 17 runs, it's long enough ago. It was at the Polo Grounds. Once in 1962 against the Dodgers, and once in 1963 against the Giants. That's the record for most runs allowed in a home game. And you guys both know about the most runs the Mets have ever allowed in any game.
I was there, but I didn't get in the game. Thank goodness.
That was in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I was out of that game in a second.
26-7 that day, if I recall correct.
Tom Gorman gave up a 6th spot, lasted 2/3 of an inning.
Who was the out center fielder who had Von Hayes had the big day.
Yeah, two home runs in the first inning or first.
He led off the game with a home run and came back up the second time and hit a grand slam.
Drew Smith up in the Mets bullpen. Now, how many runs did the Mets give up that game in Washington when Rendon hit the 3 home runs?
Oh, I don't know.
23, I think it was. That was the game Syndergaard hurt himself. I think he hit the last home run off. Was it off Plawecki?
Yes.
Did he pitch the end of that game? T-Mobile is your ticket to the game with America's largest 5G network. 0-2 to Rosario with 2 out. Yeah, that's wide. Rosario 0 for 3 today. He's seen his average shrink to .214, and that's also his on-base percentage. He has gone the entire season and the last 52 at bats last year without drawing a walk. And he goes down swinging here against Suero, who has himself a 1-2-3 bottom of the 7th. On we go to the 8th. We got good stuff coming up for you. Sector spy. Drew Smith comes on to pitch for the Mets in the 8th inning.
Well, trying to eat up some innings here is the young Drew Smith, who's had some really good games so far. You see, no walks, 5 strikeouts in those 4 innings, just 1 run allowed.
Jason Shreve went 2 innings in relief. Now Smith will try and soak up the last couple. Yan Gomes will lead off for the Nationals in the 8th inning. The Nats 16 runs, 17 hits, and 1 error. The Mets 2 runs, 5 hits, and no errors. Steven Matz gave up the first 8 runs over 4 1/3. Paul Sewald got charged with 6 runs over 2/3 of an inning. And then Shreve was tagged with 2 runs in his 2 innings of work. Well, game 2 of this series tomorrow night. We should have a more competitive tilt. The old Tiger teammates Rick Porcello and Max Scherzer will match up for the 2nd time in a week. Coverage begins at 6:30 tomorrow night, right here on SNY. But the entertainment tonight is just beginning. Gomes grounds one out to Rosario, and that's the first out of the inning. And so, my friends, the time has arrived for Media Guide Musings. And Mr. Keith Hernandez will lead us off tonight with a story of a unique event in the Mets' old ballpark here in Flushing.
Well, yes, you're right there, old chap, Gary. 1964 All-Star Game, the only All-Star Game at Shea Stadium in front of 50,850 New Yorkers. The National League wound up winning that ball game with a 4-run 9th inning, capped off by a 3-run home run off Dick Raditz by Johnny Callison of the Philadelphia Phillies. A game that had Clemente leading off, followed by Dick Groat at short, Billy Williams would hit a home run in the game, Mays hitting 4th, Cepeda 5th, Ken Boyer hit a home run in that game too, hitting 6th, Joe Torre, ex-Met manager, 7th.
May I interrupt you for just a second?
Yes.
Now, we have done Media Guide Musings on a couple of occasions in the past. And the point of the Media Guide Musings
Am I supposed to read?
is to read
Well, I was ad-libbing.
as opposed to ad-libbing off the box score. So can we rewind? There's a high fly ball hit deep to left by Robles, and over toward the line comes McNeil to make the catch. I think we need to reset, and I'm going to take the lead here.
It's a lot of reading.
So you need to just read your box score and keep it to yourself.
By the way, that fly ball wasn't to deep left. It was a can of corn.
I wasn't watching.
Get back to that pristine scorecard.
1964 All-Star Game. The National League posted its 7th straight All-Star Game victory with a 7-4 win over the American League on July the 7th, 1964 at Shea Stadium. The All-Star Game ended in dramatic fashion as Philadelphia's Johnny Callison stroked a 3-run walk-off home run. They didn't call them walk-offs in those days, so it's a little anachronistic. In the bottom of the 9th inning off Boston's Dick Raditz, known as the Monster, to cap a 4-run frame for the NL. San Francisco's Willie Mays started the 9th inning rally with a walk and a stolen base. He scored on an infield single by teammate Orlando Cepeda. Nice stop by Alonso, and Smith covers, and it's a 1-2-3 inning. There is more to hear from Media Guide Musings. Maybe we'll even get Ron to read some. Flagship station for New York Mets baseball on the radio is WCBS News Radio 880. 3 more games with the Nats, concluding with a day game Thursday. Then the Mets go to Philly and Miami before they play the Yankees. J.D. Davis leads off in the home 8th, almost gets hit, and he did get hit by Wander Suero. And the Mets have a leadoff base runner in the home 8th. So we had a little bit of a bobble there on the All-Star Game. We got back to the copy. Ronnie has opted out.
Yes, I've opted out.
And so I think the next place to go is to the Mets 1969 manager, a guy who probably belongs in the Hall of Fame, the great Brooklyn Dodger first baseman, Gil Hodges. Keith, would you like to lead us off?
Yes, I would. And since I'm at the podium, I'll stay on script. To a man, the Dodgers are certain the miracle 1969 would not have happened if not for the direction and guidance of their late manager Gil Hodges. How was the former Brooklyn Dodgers star able to transform a team that had lost over 100 games 5 times in the previous 8 years into a championship that won 100 regular season games, only then to turn back the heavily favored Baltimore Orioles to capture the World Series? His former players have no problem listing all of his attributes that contributed to their success. His leadership, demeanor, acumen, and his overriding sense of fairness that ensured that all 25 players were treated the same. There was no prima donnas on that '69 team. Gil's son, Gil Hodges Jr., feels his father's 2.5-year stint with the Marines in the South Pacific during World War II had a deep impact on how he treated people. Dad always used to tell me that when bullets are flying by your head, everybody is the same. In war, it was all for one and one for all. That's how he managed the Mets. That's a quote from Gil Jr. It was Hodges, the psychologist, who perhaps changed the course of the Mets season.
Jeff McNeil with his third hit of the night sends J.D. Davis over to third.
Should I continue?
Sure, go on.
Okay, it was Hodges, the psychologist, who perhaps changed the course of the Mets season with a decision he made on July 30th at Shea Stadium. The Mets were on the verge of getting swept by the Houston Astros in a doubleheader, and the team was in a stretch of losing 7 of 10 games. In the middle of the second game, Hodges walked slowly out to left field and removed Cleon Jones from the game. Gil felt that Cleon didn't run fast enough to get a ball that got by him. At the time, Cleon was hitting around .340 and battling for a batting title. Quote from Cleon: "When he got to me, he asked me what was going on. I said, 'Gil, you know I have a bad ankle and the field is wet.' He told me he forgot. He said he was taking me out of the game anyway." Hodges wanted to send a message to the Mets that poor play would not be tolerated no matter how elite the player. I knew what Gil was doing," Cleon said. "People thought I was angry at him, but we were very good," and there's a base hit.
Alonso drives in a run as Davis comes home to score, and it's now 16-3 Washington.
Okay. People thought I was angry at him, but we were good. He was just using my situation to prove a point that no one was exempt from being held accountable for poor play.
I think, Keith, that your media guide musings are helping to fuel a Mets rally here in the bottom of the 8th, so I think you should keep going because it seems to be working.
Okay. You're the skipper. The Mets responded by going 45-18 and winning pennant by 8 games. According to his players, Hodges and game strategy and decision making were almost impeccable. "I played for 10 years and he was by far the best manager I ever played for," said third baseman Wayne Garrett. "Most managers manage in the present. Gil managed in the future. There was never a situation for which he wasn't prepared." First baseman outfielder Art Shamsky can attest to that. "Gil had just a great feel for the game," Shamsky said. In Game 3 of the World Series, he brought in Nolan Ryan in relief, and Nolan wound up getting a save. People questioned his choice because Nolan's control wasn't always great, but Gil went with his gut, and 99 times out of 100 he was right. He was not afraid to go against the norm. That's interesting, isn't it? That wouldn't happen today. Shamsky, go ahead, I'll pause.
Hamilton rolls one on the right side. Castro gets the out at second, and that's the first out of the inning.
Okay, got the 2 more short paragraphs and we're done. Shamsky went on. When he came out over here in 1968, he told us that we were no longer going to be the laughable Mets, and he was proven right. So many of the Mets stressed how Hodges treated them all equally, and there were never favorites. Go ahead. That's it.
That's very nicely done. Now Ali Sanchez gets his first big league at bat, trying to put himself in the media guide so that he could be the subject of a future media guide musing. The 23-year-old from Venezuela gets an opportunity here with first and third and 1 out, and he hits a double play ball to Castro. Defoe with the turn. 4-6-3 double play, inning over. Mets get a run. 16-3 Nats as we go to the 9th. Well, if you thought media guide musings were fun, now we get Luis Guillorme to pitch the top of the 9th inning. And the first pitch pulled foul by Josh Harrison. 63 on the radar gun on Guillorme's first pitch. He did not make a pitching appearance in his minor league career, and This is now the first of his major league career.
A little BP here.
Now, was Jose Reyes the last Met position player to pitch? That one did not go.
That was a disaster.
That was part of that 25-4 game. Well, Harrison rolls one down to Davis, and Guillorme has an ERA. Congratulations, Luis. 1/3 of an inning, no runs, no hits. Try and keep it up.
Oh, Guillorme just told Rosario to throw the ball into the dugout because he wanted it. He wants it. That's interesting.
Shouldn't he wait for his first strikeout? You know,
No.
you know that's thinking small.
So Guillorme, Gary's got a power sinker at about 62 miles an hour. He has got a spinning slider that has never broken in the history of his pitching.
By the way, Castro's taking this seriously because the Nats have 16 runs and 17 hits tonight, and Castro's gone 0 for 5.
That's right.
So he is not laughing. He wants a hit. By the way, Reyes, that last time the Mets sent a position player to the mound, gave up 6 runs in his 1 inning of work in Washington. So we'll see if Guillorme can outshine that performance. We're going to send it to Gary Apple and Todd Zeile in a moment. Todd knows about pitching in the major leagues. He got a chance to go to the mound.
Yeah, how did he look?
Not as good as Desi Relaford, but not as bad as Reyes. Past the mound, but playing perfectly as Jimenez, and now he's got 2 outs. It's clearly a ground ball pitcher. Let's check in with Gary Apple and the erstwhile pitcher Todd Zeile, guys. Guillorme, how about that? He'll take that 0 ERA to the house.
Louie.
SNY Super Slow Motion is brought to you by your Mercedes-Benz Tri-State dealers. Mercedes-Benz, the best or nothing. Hey, Geico Sports Night comes up after the postgame show. Be sure to keep it tuned. More on Marcus Stroman opting out. College football season very much in jeopardy. And the Rangers win. The Rangers win the lottery.
Oh.
Here's your City line score. It has not been a pretty sight for the Mets tonight. They come up in the bottom of the 9th, and the Nats are going to send out Sean Doolittle. He's really been struggling, so they'll give him an inning in a lopsided game to see if they can get him righted. Brandon Nimmo leads off, and he takes a strike from Doolittle.
Well, you see his numbers not pretty so far for Sean. His velocity has been down, so out in this game to try to fix it. Perfect time to do it.
His last outing against the Orioles, he gave up 2 home runs in less than an inning, and Nimmo cracks one deep to right center, headed back toward the wall, and it's out of here. Brandon Nimmo greets Doolittle with a home run ball. And you see Doolittle's reaction. 2nd home run of the year for Nimmo to make it 16-4. So after Guillorme had a spotless top of the 9th, Doolittle gives up a bomb to start the bottom of the 9th.
They're going to throw a fastball. Middle in.
We mentioned the struggles Nimmo's had against lefties this year. He went 0 for 3 against Corbin tonight. And now a fly ball hit to left by Dozier. Back to the warning track is Harrison, and he makes a nice catch. So another hard hit ball against Doolittle as Dozier made a bid for an extra base hit. But Harrison, a fine play for the first out.
Well, for an infielder by trade, he shows no fear against the wall there.
He's so athletic. Nice play.
So 1 out, and now Andres Jimenez. And it only looked like he swung, and they check it out at third, and he did. Andres is 0 for 3, struck out twice and grounded out after his big offensive night last night. And takes a slider out of the strike zone, a ball and a strike.
Doolittle used to really just be 80-90% fastballs. He started mixing in a slider last year when he went through his struggles, and even went to a changeup occasionally.
Well, the fastball is not what it used to be.
Right. A lot of those pitchers that were just flamethrowers. Al Hrabosky comes to mind, the old Mad Hungarian. Gary, I played him early in my career. Al was a premier left-handed stopper in the National League, right over the top heat. But once he lost that little bit, he had to develop into throwing a curveball, and wound up getting traded to Atlanta.
Line to right and right at Taylor, so 3 line drives, but 2 out, and the Mets are down to their last out.
Here's contact on the home run by Nimmo. Center cut. And kind of lifted that ball. We've seen the last couple of years that ball jumping to right center, and Doolittle's like, I don't know why they put me in the game to pitch here in Citi Field. It's just my Achilles heel.
So the Mets are down to their final out. Here's Ahmed Rosario. And he fouls one back. They say that the ball is a little aerodynamically muted this year.
Oh, whatever.
But I don't think we've seen that.
Whatever. All you got to do is see the videotape of Cabrera's home run.
Rosario's got 0 for 4 tonight. Tomorrow night, Rick Porcello, coming off a terrific outing against the Nats his last time out, will try and double that up. Facing Max Scherzer, who was forced to leave with a hamstring injury against the Mets last week. Rosario hits one down the line, slicing toward the corner, and it goes foul. And the Mets are down to their final strike. But Doolittle is not fooling anybody. He was very honest after his last outing. Met the media for a long time, answered all the questions, and said, I don't know.
Yeah, he's a stand-up guy. There ever was one.
Rosario cracks one to center. Yet another line drive that will be caught, and this one ends the game. So the Nats tie the record for the most runs scored against the Mets at Citi Field as they bombard Steven Matz and company to take the opening game of this series. Huge game for the former Met Asdrubal Cabrera as he drives in 5 with 2 home runs and 2 doubles as the Nats win 16-4.
And also, let's not forget the young Juan Soto put on a clinic again tonight. 3 for 4 with 3 runs scored. A huge bomb home run to dead central, and he drove in 3 runs as well.
There's your game summary. Cabrera with the big night. Mets 2 straight poor starts, both against the Nationals. Mets fall to 7-10 on the year. The Nats improve to 5-7. Your Tri-Accurate Precision Player of the game, that would be the 2 home runs by Asdrubal Cabrera. That was the first one in the 2nd inning, and then this is the 2nd one with one hand in the 7th inning. Look, Ma, one hand. And googly eyes. New York Mets baseball on SNY is brought to you by Tri-Honda. Visit your local Honda dealer today. By Citi, proud partner of the New York Mets. By Lexus, experience amazing. And by Geico. Geico is now offering an extra 15% credit on motorcycle insurance. Visit geico.com for more. Final score tonight, the Nationals 16, the Mets 4. Tomorrow night, game 2 of this 4-game series, Rick Porcello against Max